Hi, everybody. I'm Ms. Palmer. I'm the interim creative writing teacher here at CASA, and I had the honor of, for the second night, emceeing some absolutely amazing pieces of writing from our creative writers. This is our PM, or upperclassmen folks. We're going to take you on a bit of a journey. Instead of just having us go alphabetically, for instance, we're starting with some more deep, somber, angry, more melancholy pieces. Then we'll have an intermission, and then when we come back, we'll have some lighter, more ebullient, more whimsical pieces to finish it off. So a bit of a journey for us. If you could take a moment to make sure your cell phone is on silent or vibrate. We enjoy interaction, and we did practice in case there were noise, but we would love to not pass that. Thank you. So we're going to start with B. Emery reading their piece, Witches Burned in the Northeast Forest.
Yeah.
I am B, and this is my excerpt from Witches Burned in the Northeast Forest. Salt roughly falls from my hand to the dying grass, forming a circle of protection. It may be an old live sail, but as I sit inside, my lungs loosen and my body falls into itself. Finally safe. My wounds fight against the salt, burning as the white becomes red. Running to the middle of the forest at night might have been a terrible idea, but the moonlight guided me to safety under hell's fire. I'm safe here. Even in the dark, I'm safe from harm's way. I breathe in, I breathe out. I pull myself together. The world is loud, louder tonight than any other. The town's full of havoc and madness after Miss Shelley-Ann started spouting out nonsense about seeing the devil. She said she saw my sister conspiring with him. She said she was wearing a dark ring to marry him. If anyone's going to marry the devil, it would be Miss Shelley-Ann. She just panicked when she was caught by her husband. She couldn't admit she was cheating on him with the stable blood. No, she had to fake sick and then shift the attention to my sister. This is why I hate people in this town. Always pointing fingers, but never taking the blame. My sister hasn't done anything wrong, but that doesn't matter considering she failed their fall test. Burn her pale skin to a crisp, expect me to do the same, but running away has always been my plan. So here I am in the middle of the forest, counting my blessings as I sit and listen to the world, hoping they are far enough to not find me. At least not yet. I look down at the salt, and it almost seems glistening in the moonlight. My attention is drawn away by a stick cracking behind me. Quickly, I turn and hold out my hidden knife, nothing too flashy, but hopefully sharp enough to wound. Who's there? Come out of the shadows, I shout with a facade of bravery I knew I'd never feel. I hold my place within the circle, knife shaking as I resist the urge to cry. I must fake it until I feel it, but it isn't coming quick enough, and the sound is quickly coming to me. Have you heard? A voice whispers behind the bushes. Heard? My eyebrows furrow. Heard the cries. What are you talking about? A wilting figure steps out of the shadows. The cries of the damned. My eyes widen as I step back out of the circle. Who are you? The cries full of lies. They churn your stomach, they turn you upside down. Burning oak fills the air, their cries are of despair. They didn't pledge allegiance to him, but they feel his fires within. The figure walks closer as I back away further until I hit the rough bark of the tree. I hold the knife in front of me and say, listen, I don't know who you are, but... Margaret was better of the two, yet she had no clue of her fate. The other took the bait of the devil and couldn't handle the consequence of her mistake. Her husband avoided heartbreak, but at what cost? They're right in front of me now. They're as tall as a tree, yet seem to be wilting. I can't see their face, and I'm not sure I even want to. They bend more toward me, but I stop them with a wave of my knife. I don't know how you knew that, but that isn't any of your business. If you come any closer, I'll hurt you. I wince at my words. They're so weak, so feeble compared to the threat. The sisters are watching from afar, ready to call on the stars. Circe sat on her throne. She has flown to the other world. Lefay twisted her way in, her skin telling the story of brokenness. Margaret gained pure wings, but her life is obscure, but not gone. With a shuddering breath, I lower my arm. Who are you?
Next, with Burning of Lake Town, is Layla Kusowski.
It's not on.
Hi, I'm Layla. I'm reading my poem, The Burning of Lighttown, based off of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. The swooshing of the dragon's wings, the whooshing of the damp, dank wind, the clouds rushing away in the sky, the moon haltingly showing itself up high. People crowding in the streets, whilst the waters of the wavy lake splash silently. The people stare and point up in fear. The sky remains asleep, yet something is lurking there, awake. Everything is silent, as silent as the dead. The only sound being the slushing of waves, quieter than a young child in bed. And at long last, something shatters the fearful silence. The fluttering of the bird's wings, its tweets of distress dying down. Citizens begin to shout and weep as dragonfire shoots through the town. Streets flood with scared mortals as the dragonfire begins to set the town ablaze. The sizzling sounds of the flaming wood as the lake town's homes burn. They jump, they yelp, they run, they beg for mercy. The echoes of the dragon's roar searing into the minds of the survivors. As they all crash into each other, the crackling of flames reduces to ash.
Next, we have Megan Simmons coming up to read Night Fears.
Ms. Palmer, I don't think that mic's on at all. Yeah. Oh, hurry up.
Hello, I'm Megan, and I'm reading my piece Night Fears. Halls crumble and creak around each corner you peek, picking your mind for something to eat. Wasted and useless, defenseless, surrounded, exhausted and broken, yet still grounded. Endlessly time creeps through your head until you are laying alone in your bed. Eyes open wide, scared, petrified. With the click of a light, darkness prevails, and no one knows yet what it entails. Crawly creatures creep through your eyes, skittering about to exact their demise. Fear grabs tight and wrenches your heart, and cold fingers quiver as they crack you apart. Broken pieces litter the floor, you won't be the same as you were before. But no matter how broken your hope has become, there is one last hope that rides on the sun. Light spears through your curtains, lapping up walls, killing the creatures once and for all. As the terrors of the night fade away, you pick yourself up, knowing you'll be okay. The sun swats you safely in the daylight, keeping you safe until the next night.
Next, Dante Loma will come up to read Why the Bees Die. No, it's
I can't hear back there.
crouch.
Turn it up. The deaf man says turn it up. So, I'm Dante, and I'm going to be reading Why the Bees Die. Bit. A kid stares up at the television. Wide-eyed, he watches different colors flicker on the screen. It's time to eat. We don't want you hungry on the very big day, he hears from the kitchen. The child stands up and walks to the table, taking a seat when he arrives. Mom, why do the bees die? Pardon? His mom says as she places a bowl down on the table. I heard that the bees are dying, but they also say they shouldn't. Ah, I see. She walks over to the sink and begins washing some dishes. The boy picks his spoon up and turns it over. He watches as a glob of oatmeal plops back into the bowl and then sits the spoon next to the bowl. So, why do they die? That's a hard question to answer. She awkwardly laughs. Are you sure you don't want to know something else? Nope. Why do they die? He says, a big, gleaming smile on his face as he looks up at her. Well, sweetie, asking such a question is the same thing as asking why we die. The young boy furrows his brows. I don't get it. What I mean is that, I don't know. Not really. The reason for death escapes me. It escapes all of us. She turns back to her son, and a sad smile on her face. You shouldn't concern yourself with thoughts like these. But why? Because as sad as it is, there's nothing that people like us can do to stop it. She pauses for a moment and takes a deep, shaky breath. The boy gets up and walks over to her, then leans against her. What's wrong, Mom? Oh, nothing, sweetie. You're a lot like your brother. He looks up at his mom and then back in front of him. I miss him. I do too, she says, patting his shoulder. All right, it's time for you to go. The boy's mom wipes tears from her eyes and straightens her apron. He leaves his mother's side and picks his bowl up from the table before walking to the sink and rinsing it. Placing the bowl down, he heads towards the door. The boy grabs his coat from it and slips it on. He stands there for a moment and turns the doorknob. Before he can open the door, he's stopped by his mother. Wait, you didn't hug me goodbye. He turns around and runs to his mom, wrapping his arms around her as far as possible. Bye. He squeezes tighter. I love you. I love you too, she says, as she parts the hair from his eyes. The child takes a step back and looks up at his mother, a smile running ear to ear. She looks down at him, sadness in her eyes. Now get going. You don't want to be late. Turning from her, he walks back and opens the door. Light floods into the room. He reaches down, and his hands find a rifle leaning against the wall. He struggles to lift it and pull the strap over his shoulder. The boy turns back to his mother one last time. I'm gonna save them. Who? The bees. I'm gonna save the bees. He turns back to the open door. Taking a deep breath, he looks out at the world before him and then walks into it, shutting the door behind him.
Our next piece is full moons and salted grass. Oh, my apologies. The next piece is The Return Home by Sydney Moore.
His whole body is frozen, completely numb. His mind's racing with memories he can't overcome. He stares at the road ahead, eyes blank. In his head he's flashed back to the shots of a patent tank. The people around him have no thank yous to give. His only thanks is that he gets to live. But life isn't really such a great prize. He can feel the burning hate in everyone's eyes, and he understands those looks. He hates himself too. He wants to go back. But war is a thing you can't undo.
And now we'll hear from Dee Emery reading Full Moons and Salted Grass.
I am back. So this is another excerpt from my book, Full Moons and Salted Grass. There's something about a full moon that drives people up the wall. Maybe it's all the superstitions embedded in our self-consciousness, or maybe it's just the black cats. We run around like chickens with our heads cut off and create havoc for the sake of chaos. Yet, the moment the sun comes up, we go back to our normal lives as if Jerry didn't just eat 30 hot dogs in under 5 minutes. Maybe that's why I feel restless tonight. Maybe the full moon has some pull on us, giving us a sense of invincibility. I sat up, groaning in bed, patting the woman next to me to let her know I'm just going to get some water. I haven't been sleeping well. It's only been getting worse. So instead of tossing and turning and frisking up waking up my love, I got out of bed and walked downstairs. Walking as quietly as I could, I made my way into the kitchen. I grabbed a cup and got some cold water. As I sipped on it, I felt an impulse spike through me. I put the cup on the counter and instantly went to the cupboards. As I pushed through all the ramen and snacks, I began to think about what I was doing, but before I can second guess, I grabbed the salt. I turned and ran outside the door, making my way toward a small patch of grass beside an oak tree with a tire swing that sits in our front yard. Quickly, I poured the salt into my hand, watching it roughly fall to the dying grass below. I impulsively formed a circle of protection, maybe old wives' tale, but as I sit inside it, my tired nerves calm and my body falls into itself. I haven't felt this at ease in a long time, even though I haven't been far from her. It almost seems as if leaving was the best choice, as if I was letting her be happy for once. My body is calm, but my brain goes into overdrive. Logically, I know if I were to scream for help, she'd come running out of her house in my old shirt, wielding a bat to hit the unsuspecting attacker. But my throat is tight and my mouth is sewn shut as my thoughts pour out. I know that I could easily walk inside, go upstairs, wake her up, and hold her arms. I know she wouldn't be mad, but I feel my body weigh me down. My skin burns slightly as the salt irritates the wounds on my hands. I look around to ignore the feeling and notice that in the rush of it all, I only made the circle big enough to surround me and one lonely flower beside me. The flower was orange, her favorite color. It represented her blooming mind and life. When it was growing, roots digging deeper into the ground, her life was growing, but when the petals began to wilt, the dark seemed to take over. Right now, the flower was near death. The circle was big enough to protect us, the flower and I, but somewhere deep in my mind, I knew I was hoping she'd be protected as well. But I think salt destroys soil rather than keep it safe. Shaking my head, I looked toward the house, yellow and surrounded by our garden. It was our choice of color, we thought about it, but in the end, yellow made my world brighter. I couldn't help but smile. She wanted this house to start a family. She wanted 3 kids running around and a baby wolf named Clifford. Though, we couldn't have that dream.
Next we have Chloe Tubbs reading Ticking Time Bomb.
Hi. You and I are an anomaly, never wanting to be the first one to break. You not only tell me pleasing words, but also share your thoughts pledged with honesty. And honestly, I've been too caught up in inconsistencies to know the difference between a truth and a lie. So I should know better than to be surprised when once again you come in and take. And I'm left with nothing but fleeting memories and standstill time. There goes my sanity once again, standing at the edge of Lover's Rock.
And Akaya Simpson's going to come up and read her piece, Devil in Disguise.
She walked like an angel, her soul made of gold. The way I felt for her was so accidental, it couldn't be controlled. She made me feel like I wasn't lost. The meaning of her words grew in size. I wanted her heart, but my soul was the cost. I learned she was a devil in disguise. No warning, the sound of her wasn't heartwarming. Her soul screeched of horror and sorrow. She stole my heart and called it a borrow. There was no remorse. She pulled me in like gravitational force. Her soul is forever hellbound. Someday she'll be the reason why the devil is so crowned.
Next we'll have Zoe Peters come up and read her piece, Floods of Memories.
An early evening chill lingered in the air. A layer of dark clouds held back the sunlight. The wind shaped the clouds in the grass, sculpting them as it does the water, rolling and folding over itself. A field spans along the side of a narrow road. Its overgrown grass is littered with withered flowers and snapped twigs. Weeds grown amongst the rocks were set in rows, and here's where speaking was heard. Being able to talk with you here is one of my favorite things to do, the boy said. Especially when it's nighttime. Well, almost night. It's like everything is simple again, just you and me, together. It's a peculiar place, I know, everyone knows. But it's just something about it that's calming. I know you remember coming here, us looking at the sky. You point at different stars and ask me about each one. And I try my best to tell you about them, but I never actually knew as much as you thought I did. I did try, though. When we get home, I do research. That way I wouldn't have to lie to you about what each one was. He let a smile sneak onto his lips for a mere moment before fading. I don't suppose we'll see any stars tonight, which is sad, because I feel like I have them all down now. Nights like this were normal. Laying on the ground, he tried to get into a more comfortable position, but ended back up how he was. That silence in the air stung. His heart pounded in pain. He wasn't sure what to say next. Speaking of astronomy, he blurted out. Today in class, Jordan, no, Nick. Nick Polinsky was picking on this new girl, and she moved in about a week ago. I started talking to her more, and she's pretty cool. She showed me one of her sketchbooks today, too. She's a really good artist, just like you. And they reminded me of your drawings, and I miss them. Should have quit doing them because of soccer. He continued his ramble. My mom is repainting the kitchen again. Ever since we got a new floor tile, she can't settle on one color. This is the third time in the past 6 months. She never makes up her mind, and the house always smells like paint and is starting to give me headaches. He put a palm to his head as a tiny headache formed in the remembrance of all the others. He looked up. A cool wind came and nipped at his open eyes. Silence took over as he reached his arm out and picked a dandelion whose colors were dark and bold. Bringing it closer to his face, he plucked a single skinny petal from the flower. He squeezed and rolled it in his hand and let it fall to the grass. He plucked the flower again and noticed his stem was stained a dark yellow, so he threw the flower to the ground and rubbed his eyes. My birthday's in a few weeks. Mom's having Uncle Jerry live with us during that time while he gets his surgery. She won't listen to my opinion on it, even though she knows I hate him. The wind picked up as he laid still. His hair was whipped around his face. Slightly shivering, he pulled his sweater sleeves down. I should have dressed warmer, he stated, realizing he hadn't worn enough layers. The clouds were dampening his mood for far too long. He loved the rain, a lot actually, but it had been raining so much that he was getting tired of it. The rain had been putting everyone in a bad mood. No one to go hang out anymore, he couldn't go and do anything anymore. Driving was dangerous and it was hard to sleep at night. Today was a rare day where it hadn't rained at all yet, but it will eventually, as it always does. He shivered again, cursed the cold, and looked to his left. A slight smile that had been lingering for a while faded quickly as he remembered who, or rather what, he had been talking to. A person had not been listening to him ramble but a rock. A large stone, flat and faded, shaped to remember a life. Etched in the front was a name, Emily Hensoff, 1996 to 2013. I had loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. The boy's eyes filled with tears as the memories, all that had happened, came flooding back to him. The fight he had with her, and the last thing he said. The accident on the way home and the funeral that he couldn't handle. He grabbed the edge of the stone and pulled himself closer to it. The wet grass stained his clothes as he dragged himself, and he curled up like a lonely stray dog. I miss you so much, he breathed out. He closed his eyes and tears fell. The sky's wind pulled at his hair again, sticking the strands to his damp face. He lay there silent, crying and gasping for air. No one was around, so he didn't care what he did or what happened. He even could be himself, with her, in their favorite spot. You know, he said, I don't think I've seen the sky since the last day you were here. He paused, and he let more tears fall, and then his voice quivered. And I haven't seen the stars.
Next, Bethany Rumpo will come up and share Greener Grass.
I'm going to be reading an excerpt from a short story that actually started out as a prompt that we were given in class, so it's a miracle that I actually continued it. All right. When I woke up this morning, I turned to my side, expecting to see your face inches from mine. Instead, I was met with bright sun rays piercing through the darkness around me. I slept with my drapes open last night, since you weren't here to object. The view was bliss, a perfect start to the new day, so I decided to stay in bed a while and gaze into the golden sky a moment longer. There was no need to rush, considering I had only one breakfast to make now. It was a strange feeling to break the habit I'd grown close with over the past 3 years. After I grew bored of aimlessly gazing, I decided to roll out of bed and choose an outfit for the day. The left side of the clothes rack was bare, but the right side, my side, was flourishing with new blouses I had bought yesterday afternoon. I decided to pull a gown your sister gave me a few days before your departure. I thought it was the most beautiful I'd ever seen, and I ambitiously put it on. I came out to model for you, hoping you'd fall for me even harder than before, though you weren't as thrilled as I was. You claimed that the neckline veered down a little too far, so I was forbidden to wear it, even if just around the home. But today, there was no one to deny me approval. The dress was long and flowed ever so elegantly. I felt as if I were a princess while wearing it, something I hadn't felt in a few years. After dressing myself, I took my hair out of the pins I had slept in, deciding I simply didn't have the desire to put effort into an updo today. I left my hair alone, letting its natural flow match the being of the gown I wore. The mirror cannot lie, I truly did look like a princess today, and I ruled my own palace. I then decided it's best to play some music while cooking myself a nice meal. Staying inside would be my healthiest decision, considering the past few days have been really rough on my mind. I deserve a nice meal and a relaxing day in my house. Well, my home. It finally feels like a home. I made my way to the record player and began flipping through the different records I had. After choosing Tori Amos, I let my favorite song lull me into a calm. If you were here, you'd tell me to put something else on, because she sings like Joplin, but far more exotic. I never believed that to be true. They're quite different artists, and he'd know that if he'd given my music a chance. I admired the soft pink limited edition vinyl, and smiled as I thought back to when I bought it from a drunkard in the town square. It was my proudest purchase, though you had a conniption over my spending our money on it. The music began to play, and I couldn't help but dance, twirl ever so elegantly throughout the rooms of our home. My home. I felt happy. I felt at peace for the first time in a while. I was relaxed, comfortable, and that's something I deserve to feel every day for the rest of my life.
And our last piece before our intermission will be public service announcement, PSA, performed by Steph Porter.
Sorry, I'm trying to get ready. Alright, my name is Steph. Public service announcement. I have something to say. A few words to touch spots that don't feel okay. Hear me out, the words will fall into place. If you would just listen, you would understand I felt alone since the age of 10. That I lost my brother, he was more than just a friend. If you would just listen, you would know that money doesn't grow on trees. That you shouldn't bully the kids that have less, because they wasn't born with finer things. If you would just listen, you know depression is real. Ask your kids if they're okay, that if they feel alone, you're here to stay. If you would just listen, I believe in heaven. Though when my grandma died, it was like a life sentence. If you would just listen, you know I'm selfless. I love everyone that loves me. And even if I'm hurt, I'll take care of you and not me. If you would just listen, you know no matter the girl or boy, they don't deserve you. And don't ever justify them hurting you. If you would just listen, you know it's hard being black. That job will always call back, and sometimes Skittles get mistaken for Gax. Rest in peace, Trayvon. If you would just listen, you know that bad days don't always last. The rainbows are real, sunny days do come back. If you would just listen, you know you're enough. That even though you're not okay, something about you people love. If you would just listen, you know I'm talking to you. Pick your head up, cause I feel for you too. If you would just listen, maybe hear me out, understand everything coming out of my mouth. That tomorrow is tomorrow. Life doesn't wait for anyone, so hold your sorrow. Thank you for your ears and the time that I borrowed.
Take a 15-minute break. For you to sit up, stretch your legs, look around, and we'll see you back here for the second half. Okay, welcome back everybody. I hope you enjoyed the intermission. You're ready for the second half of our fantastic pieces. We're going to start with King of the Sea by B. Emery.
Hi. So this is a poem from my poem book that I'm currently working on. It's called King of the Sea. The world is an unpredictable place that leaves you wondering. How far can you run as the rain pounds down and the thundering world yells out above your head, leaving you shaking and so cold? Your bones are old, the story's untold, so much left to unfold. But the storm just keeps raging on up above, screaming and wild. 1 second, the sun was shining, and next it was exiled. Now the universe is pouring and leaving the world to drown, and you have so much blood on your crown. Now's the king of a ghost town. Isn't it funny how you once ran far from the rain in fear, but now you command the strings, and you're the newest puppeteer? Once a common man, now a higher being holding the key, listening to the pleas, setting men free, O great king of the sea.
And next we have Plato is an Idiot, read by Sydney Mull.
Plato once said, "At the touch of love, everyone becomes a poet." I'm not really sure about that, but I guess I might as well try. I've never been a writer, really, but this needs to be said. I can't let it die with me. This story is a long and convoluted one. There are many ups and downs and twists and turns. It's a story of heartbreak, but it's also a story of love. To tell the whole thing would take hours, days even, and that's time that I do not have. I could turn this whole thing into a book, but that would take too long. So instead, I'll just break it down and tell you the most important moments. I'm not sure where to start, though. It's always so hard to tell a story. Perhaps the beginning is the best place. I met him back when I was high school. It was sophomore year, and I had just turned 16, I think. He was the new kid in class, and we became fast friends. We'd hang out around the football field after school and walk to the gas station for slushies. He'd drive us into town on Friday nights, and we'd go bowling with friends or see a movie. Sometimes we'd go to the ice rink and just watch the other kids skate. We were both pretty bad skaters, so I'm not really sure why we went, if I'm being honest. But it was fun. That was all that really mattered. It went on like that for a while. Things were good, until I started feeling this fluttering in my chest. It happened every time I saw him, and I had no idea what to do. His smile and his laugh and that gleam in his eye when he looked at me made me weak in the knees. It scared me at first, I'll admit. I was unprepared for love. I saw what it had done to my parents, and I didn't want that to happen to me. So instead, I did nothing. It didn't go very well. I didn't think I could hide how I felt, and I knew he didn't feel the same way I did. Heartbreak wasn't something I wanted to face, so I left, leaving him with no explanation. We didn't talk for over a year. He was a jock by then, quarterback of the football team, and captain of the basketball team. Everybody loved him. I was a drama kid, one of the best. And while I was only loved by the few, I was loved dearly. Each year I was the lead of the fall play and star of the spring musical, making out with guys left and right just to show how not hurt I was, how not lonely I was. Meanwhile, he had every girl in school throwing themselves at him. I swear he had a new girl on his arm every week. It was ridiculous. We were so stupid. I know you're probably wondering why this is such a big deal. We were both stars in our own right, but existed in very different universes, ones that were never supposed to collide. I have to laugh at myself for feeling that way now, though, as if high school was the entire universe, when really it was only a small blip in my world. The second week of December that year, the cast list for Grease was released. I was officially River High's Sandy Dombrowski, and Gwayne Clark, one of the hottest guys in drama club, was going to be Danny. And he was straight, too. It felt like God was finally on my side, and suddenly things were looking up. I wasn't even thinking about him anymore. Not really. Then, the week before Christmas break, I began hearing strange whispers in the hall, and I wanted answers. Naturally, I was curious. I mean, I was a teenager after all. So when I heard what they were saying, I started watching him. I'm aware that sounds creepy, but I wanted to figure out what was really going on. There was no girl by his side anymore. He'd become more reserved. He was talking less and listening more at lunch. It was strange. Now, I'm aware you'll find this quite cliche, but I promise you it's true. That Thursday, after I just sat down for lunch, I saw him walk into the cafeteria, but he didn't head to his normal table. Instead, he headed toward my side of the cafeteria. He was scanning the room, looking for someone, but I couldn't tell who. Then he caught my eye, and I stopped breathing for a moment when he smiled. It'd been so long since that smile had been directed at me. And then he stopped directly in front of my table and asked me if I'd sit with him at lunch. I was pretty sure I was gaping like a fish at that point, but I didn't care. I was finally getting my chance, and I wasn't going to waste it, so I said yes, like any love-struck girl would, and followed him across the cafeteria to sit with the rest of the football team. After that day, we got into a new routine. We'd sit with each other in classes and at lunch, and then at the end of the day, he'd walk me to the auditorium and hug me tight before leaving with his friends. Whenever I didn't have rehearsals, I went to his basketball games, and when March came, he went to all my shows. And I fell in love with him all over again. Turned out he loved me too. It was the darndest thing. April came and we were prom king and queen, eternal lovers at only 4 months. By the time graduation rolled around in June, he'd already bought a ring. I should have known he was up to something, of course, because he had never been good at secrets. But I was still surprised when, right before he headed off to boot camp, he proposed. And by Christmas that same year, we were already husband and wife. Looking back on it now, so many years later, we may have rushed into it a little bit, but we were so young back then, and young love is the damnedest thing. But do I regret it? Not one bit, because it gave me some of the best things in my life. The two of you. Quentin, you were a honeymoon baby. Your father was so happy when he found out, and his lieutenant even let him come home on leave to be there for the both of us when he came into this world. He stayed just long enough to hold your tiny frame in his arms before they shipped him back out to the coast. I still wish he could have stayed longer. Before he left, he promised to visit, and he did, but he could never stay long. By the time Quentin was 1, I was expecting you, Kat. He couldn't be there for you, dear, and he's always regretted that. You loved his video calls, though, you and Quentin both. Your big brother would hold you while I held the camera, and you'd smile and laugh, and I'd kiss your fuzzy little head. For 1 hour every night, because your father never missed a call. Not ever. It was almost like he was here with us. Then one day, he didn't call. There was a week, which I remember very clearly, where I'd sit there day and night waiting, and Quentin would ask for Daddy, but I had no answers. When there was a knock on the front door, for a moment I wondered if maybe your father had gotten better at surprises, that maybe he was finally home for good. He was, but he wasn't on his own. His homecoming was bittersweet. I was happy to know he was safe, but the price of knowing was high. The pain was the worst I've ever felt, even worse than when I left him behind back in high school, because this time it wasn't my choice. And it wasn't his choice either, I know. But it hurt. It hurt so bad. And after that initial pain, I felt nothing. My heart shattered the day he died, and I've never been able to find all the pieces. A part of me was buried with him that chilly February day. I tried to hide the pain, but sometimes it just came through. Sometimes there was just no way to hide it. I know you saw on those days when I'd sit and stare at nothing for hours, and I want to apologize for those days, the ones where I wasn't really there for you. I am so sorry. I wish I could have been a better person, a better mother, a better friend. I wish I could have been there more for you when you were growing up. It wasn't fair to punish you because I was in pain. But I hope, now that you truly know, that you'll find it in your hearts one day to forgive me. I love you both so much, and your father did too. I can't wait until the day we can all finally be a family again. Yours, always and forever, Mommy.
Okay, next, coming up to read Lovesick is Becca Twanita.
Okay. So this is a poem I wrote for my boyfriend, Irvin. Hi. So I can't be here, but moving on. Allow me to pour my heart out on this page, finally free from its cage, to tell of my love upon this foggy stage. When the lights come on and you see my face, take these words as your warm embrace. Butterflies in my stomach ate away my appetite, dressed to impress for love at first sight. But you already loved me for me, with no sign of an end, as our souls begin to blend. I've never fallen this hard and enjoyed the landing. If love is real, this must be how it feels. To write with your heart instead of your head, to smile in the wake of the storm and wait for the sun to rise. Knowing the pain of everlasting rain, it's not fair, I wake up and you're not there. Ironic how now I'm lonelier than before. I've fallen for a fantasy by another sea. Such is the cruelty of reality. So let the water wash over me, ensuring I'll be yours for eternity, because I know you're my one and only, as nobody's ever made me feel happy, longing for the day our kiss will set us free. In the stars, I see your face, radiating light on the darkest nights, violating my imagination in the kindest of ways, never without you in the expanse of space. Above all this glory resides our purgatory, empty and cold without you, validating our love is true. As the old saying goes, love is not a victory march. Oh, but isn't it freeing? Seeing the sun shine from behind the clouds makes waiting out the storm worth something, to one day wear a white-veiled shroud. So let the water wash over me. I'm lovesick and I can't get enough. If the sea takes me under and I go where the current flows, I'll wash up on your shore. This whole performance, I've stuck to metaphors, so let me be straightforward. No matter the coast, I'll always love you, Irvin Arevalos.
And next we have Skin by Chloe Tubbs.
The water falls down on my most insecure parts, drowning the supercut that plays in my head. I feel steady, numb, but still alive. I'll suck my stomach in and hold my breath. Be still, my beating heart, be still. Do I have nothing to offer, or is everyone else just unaware? No, heaven feels too far of a reach, so I'll stay here with you instead. You live on the other side of that frame, half cracked, but exactly the same. And now you know that you're steady, numb, and very much alive.
Now we'll hear Bethany Wempa return back to read Clashing.
Hi. Okay. This piece, it's a metaphor, so just keep an eye on that. When I got to a certain age, my mother told me to start dressing myself in the mornings. She didn't want to choose my outfits for me anymore because, at this point, I was old enough to do it myself. Most days I'd walk out of my room wearing all of the forbidden fashion combos, like brown boots with black leggings or silver and gold jewelry with the same outfit. But no one would blame a child for wearing mismatched clothes. Children tend to get away with these types of things because they're ignorant and they say and do things that they'll eventually grow out of. A problem only arises when they don't grow out of it. When your child is 14, 16, 18, still walking out the front door every day wearing mismatched clothing with an unzipped backpack. As you've probably noticed, I never really grew out of the mismatched phase. I walk out the door nearly every day flaunting some sort of fashion sin. Most people didn't care because, realistically, what kind of person cares that deeply about what a stranger is wearing? Anybody's able to wear whatever they please and nobody else gets a say, right? Regardless, there will always be a few who speak their mind, and it's not because they're judgmental, but it's because they care. They tell me it's okay to wear silver and gold, just not together. It's okay to wear black and brown, just not black on brown. But yet, here I stand. Some admire my look, while others take one glance at me and think that's a god-awful choice. Why would she go out like that? It's something they wouldn't wear, but they're not me. It's not about their preferences, it's just about mine. It's not all that simple to change what you like, is it? So, my golden sunflower pendant will lie around the same neck as my silver cross, and if I love both just the same, I'll embrace them, and nobody can take that from me.
Now we have Space, read by Liv Garuba.
Okay, as you can see, I came dressed appropriately. Space. There's something so alluring about her danger. We are so caught up in her wonder, reaching our fingertips to graze what will never be. Starlight twinkling in our eyes, blinding us with the beauty of forbidden love. Forgetting her chaotic ways, the way stardust rolls into rocks, only to crash into dust again. Supernovas exploding with a severity and ferocity that we could never hope to feel. black holes lurking in the dark, greedily consuming all in its path, if only to stop the emptiness it feels inside. She is dangerous and deadly, and you have to push past the black holes, take on the supernovas, and brace yourself for the crashing of stardust to see the sparkling love she has, to appreciate every star that shines for us, the stories she tells and the secrets she keeps, the way she is never just one color, but splashes of purples and blues and pinks. Her type of beauty cannot ever be contained, nor should she be.
Now we have No True Shape, read by Layla Klusovsky.
Hello again. This one's happier, I promise. There's always people that say, there's always people that say, hey, what does that one look like? Though we have no true shape. It looks like a flower. Well, that's interesting. I think it looks like a building. How does one go from a flower to a building? No, wait, it's a person. All right, moving on. We have no shape. We make no sound. We do just one simple thing. We fly. Though as we do fly, some of us do cry, making the people below us sigh. We cannot control ourselves, our movement, our tears, our colors, even our looks. Everyone asks each other what we are, though we have no true shape. I think it looks like a circle. Didn't he just say we were buildings? And that other one is a triangle. As I've said, we have no true shape. We are only the white specks of your sky.
We have Megan Simmons coming up to read The Bubbly Dragon.
Sheer dreamy scales float and toss a bubbly blue dragon across a soapy sea of rainbow glee, lovingly to recross.
And our last piece of this evening is Snake in the Sun, read by Liv Garuba.
Hello. I'm sure you all missed me again. All right. Why? The question floated through the air, making Ida halt in her knitting. Her eyebrows furrowed as she looked at the woman across from her. Why, what? She asked back. Lorelei groaned in annoyance. You can't be that stupid. This. She gestured to the room around her, waving her hands wildly at the plush pillows, books, and freshly changed flowers. Why did you do this? The queen returned to her knitting, roping strands of yellow into a green base. Well, I had to hold you in my prison. It was the only way the others would let me look after you, Ida pointed out, shaking her head with a smile. It was a silly question to ask, considering everything that had happened. The deceit, the attacks, the plot against the four queens. It was only natural for Lorelei to be put in some type of holding cell. This is a prison? Honey, it's a room with bars on the exits. It's a fortified guest bedroom at best, she snarled out at the queen as she gripped the bars, hands shaking from the tight grasp she held. Ida bit her lip at the reaction. Well, I don't like calling it a prison, more like a rehabilitation room. Is it not good enough? I can arrange for more books if you'd like. She missed the incredulous look the woman was giving her. That's what you're worried about? This is unbelievable. Lorelei let out a bark of laughter. But I will give you this. Being forced here with you gives me the feeling of an actual prison. Not even Levada could be this annoying. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Her brain slowed as she let out a breath of disappointment, thumbing over the wool she held in her hands. Either way, it won't be all bad. You're living comfortably, and I'll make sure you eat properly, though me and the rest of the guards will be the only faces you'll see for a while, she explained, putting down her half-made scarf and making her way over to the bars, sitting down across from her. Lorelei glared at her, but the twinkle in her eyes wouldn't falter. This is ridiculous. Leaning her head against the bars, she sighed, before a smirk made its way on her face. You want to know why I chose you? Out of any of the other queens? There was a pause as the two locked eyes, confused brown staring at a predatory gray. It's simple, really. My goal was to infiltrate and destroy the chain of authority the four of you set up. And like any chain, you break it through the weakest link. You know, I really did expect my mission to take months, if not years, but you let me right into your inner circle in the span of 2 weeks. And to think, all I had to do was say a few nice words and give you food from time to time. You're not a queen, Ida. You're a glorified dog. Lorelei's grin widened maniacally as she watched the queen's face darken, reaching her hands through the bars and grabbing her chin roughly. Nails dug into her cheeks to force Ida to look at her as venom continued to drip from her mouth. It was so easy to manipulate you into doing what I wanted. Being a good little puppet because you can't stand being alone for even a second. Because without others, you crumble to pieces. You're so pathetic, it's laughable. And to think, because you are so desperate for companionship, dozens are dead. Husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, never returning to their families because you are weak. She let go of the queen's chin, watching her head droop and her body cave inwards. Lorelei laughed at the scene, reveling in the woman's broken spirit, and to see that awful, infallible smile of hers fall at last. However, Lorelei missed Ida's clenched fists and the way her jaw set. Slowly her head lifted back up, a serene expression on her face as she took a breath. "You're wrong," she stated. Simple and quiet, but enough to gain Lorelei's attention. "What happened to the subjects of all of our kingdoms was a tragedy, but it wasn't my fault. It was you who made the decision to hurt them for your own gain. You made your plan and you went through with it. I feel sorrow, but I'm not guilty for something that I couldn't have known about and was out of my control. At the end of the day, your plan was stopped. No one else died, and that's all that matters." The tiniest smile graced her lips as she hesitantly pushed her hands through the bars in an attempt to reach out to Lorelei. The woman backed away from the touch, her laughter long gone as a frown settled on her features. "Oh, how very noble of you, your highness. I'm glad you were finally able to see me as a filthy villain. I truly am." Ida only shook her head. "What you did was wrong, but I don't think it makes you a villain." "Wow, you never really do learn your lesson, do you? This is who I've always been, an evil manipulator, a menace to society. If you think for 2 seconds that I will ever come out of this room with a soul of kindness and a good heart, you're even more delusional than I thought." Lorelei crossed her arms, sneer deepening with every word. Retracting her hands, Ida opted instead to place them on the bars. "Well, I am a little bit ditzy, but I'm not delusional. I don't think you've always been an evil manipulator, but that's probably what others have told you. I don't think you wanted to be this way, but it didn't feel like anyone was giving you another option." Lorelei scoffed at the words. "And suddenly you're an expert on my life?" "No, it's just what I think. The friendship and empathy you showed me, even if it was just manipulation, that can't be faked without having felt it at least once in your life. So I can only believe that you had the potential to turn out good, and I think it's still there somewhere. But it wouldn't be the first time I was wrong." Ida smiled with a slight shake of her head. "Either way, I believe in you, and I know that you can change for the better. It just might take a little while." There was a newfound determination in her eyes as she grabbed her needles from where she sat and went back to skillfully knitting the threads. With a huff, Lorelei turned her back to the queen, head coming down to rest on her knees. "You really are weak," she muttered, a bittersweet laugh to follow. Ida hummed as she weaved the wool together into the pattern of a snake basking in the sun. "Maybe to you, but I see potential in everyone, and that includes you. Hopefully I'll get you to see it too."
So if we can give all of our writers one last round of applause. Excellent work. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to see us, for supporting us, and we hope to see you again at our end of year.